you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. What about yourself?
Mate, I'm just back from the protest just about an hour ago, and it was absolutely amazing, man. I feel absolutely buzzed.
Yeah.
Everyone was speaking with a lot of passion, and
That's good, man.
there was just a good buzz about the place, man. Everyone was keeping their distance. Everyone was well behaved, man. Like at one point, we kind of descended into a kind of silent protest, and we took the knee and all that. And we done that for about 2 minutes straight, mate. You could have heard a pin drop in Glasgow Green. I'm just buzzed about the whole day. We were worried before about maybe any kind of weird behaviour that was going on or things possibly turning violent, but none of that happened, man. Everyone was on good shape, good form. So I'm proud of everyone.
That's good, man. What do you think about? I don't. Well, I haven't actually, other than the videos that you posted. Actually, I haven't seen anything from the sort of Glasgow protest. But what are you feeling about the images that we're seeing from like London with like all the kind of mass gatherings and stuff, and how that kind of relates to like COVID-19?
Racism is a pandemic as well, and I think people do have the right in this moment to respond in a way that they can show solidarity and that they care about the issues that go on. Because let's face it, this is not just an American issue, Chris. It's a UK issue. It's a Scotland issue. We had the case of Sheku Bayo in 2015. He was restrained by police in Fife, Kirkcaldy, and he never regained consciousness after he was restrained. This is Scotland we're talking about. This is a few miles away. So This is not just an American problem, and that's why people in the UK are doing this. That's why they're responding.
I suppose, like, I mean, my kind of job here, like, is to sort of play devil's advocate, and you know, like, I've spoken to you in the past about how I'm not on the fence with the idea of Black Lives Matter. Like, I think we all agree that Black Lives Matter. Like, I think when something comes into like popular opinion, my brain like doesn't want to just accept the you know, like the thing that's being presented just for face value. You know, like I see it as like a sort of mental exercise that I should maybe think about a little bit more and how it's accepted. But I suppose like what I would say in response to that is like you know, like the protest itself could potentially lead to more lives being lost from COVID-19, but I don't think if the protest never took place, you know, like that we couldn't show any less solidarity, if you know what I mean. Like,
as I said, Chris, I do understand. I do understand these points, and there are many ways to show solidarity. There was a few people, friends of mine, that said, "Listen, for my own reasons, I don't want to risk my health by going to the protest. I'm going to find another way of showing solidarity." But to all those people that did show, I don't really have any quarrel with them, because, as I said, it's been said often that racism is also a public health issue. You know what I mean? I think it's as serious. It acts like a disease. It acts like a parasite, and it's always been here. You know what I mean? When you're confronted with all these police brutality incidents, as you said, you don't want to believe that's happening. But the fact is, racism is in our society's DNA. It's been there since the start. It was based off 19th century slavery. Racism was used to justify having slaves. And much today, we still live under the same system of capitalism. And it benefits from dividing people. It benefits from dividing the working class, in my opinion. So
this is, I suppose, where it's sort of out of my... It's actually one of the reasons I wanted to get you on, because you're now qualified, is that right, in politics?
Well, I don't know if a master's is a top qualification, but I've got 2 degrees in politics, and I'm hoping to do something with them in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm going to take this off, man. I'm starting to sweat.
I'm just looking at
you just told me you've got a master's degree, and I'm like, fuck. I'm gonna sweat a little bit. Cool, man. Well, you can be my reference point. So, what were we talking about there again?
Talking about racism is just in society's DNA that has historical roots in slavery.
Mm-hmm. What, like, do you think that, like, because I've heard like sort of both sides of the argument and sort of been swayed equally in both sides of the argument. Like, so like you're saying there, like I think that is deplorable. But I've also heard people say, how can you attribute the guilt of something like of a completely different generation of people onto another completely different generation of people that actually are now living in the sort of society that everyone was fighting for then? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, I understand that. The problem is, I guess, in a really pessimistic way, that the issues that existed back then in older generations are now coming to the fore today. You would like to think in 2020 that we would have progressed a little bit further, but clearly racism has historical roots. It's ingrained in our society, and it is, you now see symptoms of it through police brutality and systemic racism. So, as you said, like, I am against this idea that you are personally responsible because you are white, heterosexual, and male, that you have a personal responsibility. So I'm not actually into privilege theory that much. I think there's a lot wrong with it. But systemic racism exists. And however uncomfortable it is for us to come to terms with that, we're going to have to start understanding it, because at this point in time, you're either on the right side of history or the wrong side, and no one wants to be caught up in the wrong side.
Yeah. So you're saying that right now you think there is a right side and a wrong side to be on in this?
I think there is, because I mean, if you're on the side that say, you know, these guys that say like all lives matter, I think a lot of them actually don't believe the basic premise that systemic racism exists. They see like isolated incidents of police brutality as a few bad apples in the police force. I mean, come on, how long does something need to go on for in order for us to finally turn our heads and say, right, institutional racism is a problem?
I guess that's, again, another thing that I'm just not, I suppose, educated enough on is what do you think systemic racism is? Like, how would you describe it?
So systemic racism to me is racism that is, regardless of our individual beliefs, is racism that exists in the institutions and the very structure of our society. So prisons, the police, this all exists regardless of whether we acknowledge it goes on or not. That's what I would take it to be. And because, this is my opinion now, if racism basically came into existence with kind of modern like slavery, I believe that it's still a part of that system that we now live under, which is capitalism. Every black civil rights leader in the 60s and 70s all said that if you want to eradicate racism, you need to eradicate capitalism, because it's the social system that gave birth to it, and capitalism uses it to divide people, and so they don't recognise their own common interests. So I'm one of those. I guess it's not very fashionable anymore to say that you're anti-capitalist, right against capitalism. But I think if you want to end racism, you need to end capitalism.
Do you think, and this isn't my opinion, it's just a sort of question, do you think that the sort of problems that are arising now are sort of the strands that are left from those times that, that we're discussing there, like from the times of slavery? Do you think that like a lot of the guilt that does still exist, or the systemic racism that you're talking about, are sort of like, I don't want to like downplay it by saying this word, but just for lack of a better word, but like sort of just through happenstance, like the things that exist within the system that maybe were there and more heightened in laws and all that back then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the general attitude. And do you think that because like I was saying to you, like I've heard perfectly good arguments on on both sides. Not against or for racism, but
I
sort
know
of like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
where it comes from.
Maybe just like, the movement. I'm sort of talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I can't really remember, but like,
I think as you said, you were talking about like guilt, and actually, I want to talk to you a little. I don't know how much you know about privilege theory and this idea of.
Funnily enough, man, I've got one of my questions here is, like I'd actually wrote it out like a question, right? Like a proper guy, man, like a proper guy. Do you believe white people are privileged just by default of the colour of their skin? If so, what is that privilege, and what separates us exclusively from other races?
Okay, I suspected something like this was going to come up, so I also done my homework and have some notes in front of me.
Cool.
As well.
By the way, these are they're genuinely just questions, man. Like, I want to learn doing this as much as anybody else.
Now, let's. I'm going to be controversial for once and say that systemic racism exists, racial oppression exists, but privilege theory is not going to get us any closer to eradicating those systems. So, privilege theory is this idea that oppression is enjoyed by those that have unearned privileges. You have a set of unearned privileges. You were born with them by virtue of your race, your gender, and sometimes you can even be unconscious of them, according to this school of thought. So basically, I actually have a quote here by a privileged theorist. She says, Frances Kendall, she's called, and she says, any of us who has race privilege, which all white people do, and therefore the power to put our prejudice into law, is racist by definition because we benefit from a racist system. Where my problem with this lies is that essentially what it's saying is, in response to racial oppression, all we need to do is recognise our own privileges, talk about our stories, and recognise other people's oppression without actually fighting the system which gives rise to that. Do you know what I mean? So I don't believe in all this, all these like kind of white confessions that I see on Facebook, like this. Basically, people confessing their privileges, and it doesn't appear that these confessions actually lead to anything meaningful. So basically, what is the political project at the end of this? How are we going to stop racism? How are we going to eradicate discrimination? Oh, we just trade a few stories. I confront my granda about the way he talked about a Chinese takeaway the other night, and I can go to bed happy, knowing that I've, So for me, ideas of privilege, the idea that white people, if you're white, straight and heterosexual, that you can only really be an ally. You can't fight basically on the front lines because you don't understand what it's like. I'm against completely all these sorts of theories. I think they actually divide the movement. They divide the protest movement. We start calling out each other instead of directing our anger at the government, or governments which allow all this to go on. So
I think it's sort of frustrating for a lot of people, like of all different races, like right now, because I think the past 5 or 6 years, like society's obviously changing, like, and the waves that have happened. You were talking about like trends when I spoke to you the other day, and the feminism had their wave with Me Too, and all of this seems to be sort of heightened as well. But like I've watched people like Morgan Freeman, I'm sure it was Morgan Freeman, talking, and it was a question to do with Black History Month. Is that right? It's Black History Month.
Yeah.
A thing in America, and he sort of said that he didn't want to be attributed to it, and he didn't want to pass whatever the question was itself. He didn't want to be sort of a part of it, because by even just contributing to it, it was sort of like recognizing that there was some sort of divide. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was contributing to some sort of divide between races. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the thing that solves it. Like, I'm not that naive to think that, if there's racism, if we just ignore it, it's just going to go away.
Exactly.
But I think there is something in it to some degree, you know, because like not all like I think posting things like all lives matter is sort of like ridiculous, but I don't think that maybe everyone who is posting that is coming from a bad place, and I also don't think that every black person it does agree with the movement of Black Lives Matter. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sort of, I can I've watched this guy called Stephen Crowder, and you'll definitely know about him if you've
Possibly,
studied
I
politics.
hope so.
He's the sort of guy that you'll see in like memes, and it's he'll present a sort of like position on something, and below it he'll say "change my mind." So
Oh
one of the
yeah,
things that
yeah, I know
do
that guy.
you know what I
I know
mean?
that guy.
And I don't agree with everything that he. It's just an interesting like sort of thing to watch, and they're always like an hour and a half long, and he'll sit down and have quite a pleasant conversation with people on campuses and stuff. And one of the things that it highlighted for me in one of his videos was it was talking about affirmative action in America.
Okay.
So it's like black people being put through schools and colleges just by the definition that they've got a different colour of skin.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's great for people that are in poverty and stuff and living in those sort of parts of society. But he was talking to this particular young girl, and what by the end of the interview, in speaking to her, she wasn't convinced whether or not she got there through affirmative action or by her own merits.
Okay.
And
Okay. Yeah, I
that I think that there's something that's sort of racist in itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They would the people that support affirmative action would say that it's addressing a historical wrong. So
Okay.
again, it comes from again maybe privilege theory, identity politics. It kind of comes from this idea that black people as a race have been historically wronged, and that today we all need to make an effort to correct that. So again, I'm in favour of some of these things. I think they're absolutely fantastic, but I don't think it's even still. It doesn't address the big questions, right? There's people that say, "Oh, we need to elect more black politicians to Parliament, or we need a black prime minister or a black president." Excuse me, we had a black president for how long? 8 years. 8 years, and the problem got worse. The problem of police brutality got worse under Obama. So this is what I'm saying. It's not about how many black representatives we can elect to Parliament. It's about taking on the entire system which benefits from racism. So I do believe systemic racism exists.
In what way? Sorry, man, but in what way do you think that the system benefits from racism?
Because it divides essentially working class people against each other so that they don't realise their common interests. You know what I mean?
Right.
You even have Boris Johnson does it sometimes. See, before this whole COVID-19 thing, do you remember that he was saying certain people from certain countries couldn't come over if they were an unskilled worker?
Right.
Right. He was saying,
I actually don't remember that. But
people that earned under a certain amount couldn't come to the UK. The UK is going to implement basically a points based immigration system where you need to have a certain level of wealth, a certain level of education, blah blah blah. So that's an example of how governments use race to create tension in the working
is that
class.
only applicable to like color as opposed to nationality?
Yeah,
Like
definitely. Yeah.
Sorry,
Go
on
ahead.
you go.
No, go ahead, please.
Like for example, my brother-in-law, so it's like my girlfriend's sister's partner. They're actually married. It's her husband. He's from South Africa and he's white, and they've been trying to get him a visa to actually live in the UK for like the past. It's like 3 years they've been trying, and it's been rejected like twice.
Okay.
So like I mean, that's just one experience that I've had that doesn't include colour, but I suppose it is. I mean, what's the word for it? Like, exclusion of
Yeah.
of someone of a different nationality. But I mean, it's frustrating. You know, it's equally as frustrating for all of us. Like, and he's white South African.
Aye.
But
Yeah. I mean,
so what I mean is, like, what specifically is racial about that?
well, what as we said, we talked about this before, and it was that injustice happens to everyone. Right? That's an absolute fact. It doesn't matter whether you're white or black. A white person on low wages is the same as a black person on low wages. They both face the same economic conditions. They are both. That's in fact a perfect comparison. A white person in a poor neighborhood is facing similar economic conditions to a black person in the same neighborhood. You know what I mean? They face the same troubles of life. They face dilapidated housing. They face bad schools, crumbling infrastructure, shitty roads. And to me, that's what's unifying. You know what I mean? That we all bear the brunt of this system. We're all in a certain socioeconomic bracket, and that we have a lot of more things in common than trying to erect barriers, saying that you need to feel sorry for your privilege, that you should have guilt and do all these mad confessions online, basically about how privileged your life has been. You know, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm on the left, but in that sense, I'll probably be controversial because there's a lot of fine anti-racist campaigners that adopt these privilege theories, and I don't have anything against those people. You know what I mean? But I think within a protest movement like this, you need to take down barriers. You can't be saying that this white person over here can only be an ally because he hasn't faced the same experience. I'm sorry. We need a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-class movement to take on all of this. It can't just be one race for itself, another race for another. You know what I mean?
It's funny, like, see, when you're talking about like releasing yourself of your guilt and all of that stuff. Like, the reason that I'm laughing when you say that is, like, there's a comedian that I follow called Theo Von who's got like a really good bit about white privilege, and he's like talks about how he just never experienced it because he lived in like a predominantly black neighborhood, and like everyone was always talking about his white privilege, and he was like, do you think I would like take all your stuff and move next door? Like, they were all in it together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, in a way that my sort of not confusion, but my interest in all of this that's happening has came from that, like, you know, man, what it's like growing up in Cumbernauld. Like, nobody feels privileged. Like, there's a lot of poverty in Cumbernauld, man, and race is just never seems to have played a part in it. And anyone that was of a different race was just in the same boat. Like, that's how I've felt growing up anyway, and maybe I've just been ignorant, and if I am, then I'm willing to accept that. Like,
I mean, at the same time, see, when I say when I don't agree with privilege theories because that they're not a good guide to action, it's basically a bunch of people confessing their own sins about their own white privilege. But what I would say is that doesn't mean the oppression isn't there. I think black people are more oppressed in today's society. I think LGBT people are more oppressed than white people in society. But the answer then is not to say, oh, the white man must renounce all his privileges. It's to get everyone to the same level, to get everyone up to the equal rights that they should have.
What would you describe as oppression? So what is oppression to you, and what is the sort of political, if there is a political definition of oppression?
You're asking the big questions tonight, Chris.
I'm just, just so, like, if we're going to have a discussion about something, I feel like it's important to sort of like set the definition for the conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think, listen, there's multiple forms of oppression. You got gender oppression, sexism. You've got oppression against LGBT people, homophobia. It comes in all shapes and sizes. And what I would say is, I don't want to reduce everything to economics or anything like that, but I think that the most important kind of oppression today, or one of the most important, is economic oppression. Why? Because everyone feels it. Everyone feels it the same way. You know what I mean? If you're in a low-paid, shitty job and a fucking terrible scheme, and that you had no educational prospects, I think all these things constitute oppression, especially modern capitalism. So absolutely, racial oppression, homophobia, all these things exist, and they are multiple and they are varied. But I think that you can't have racial justice without solving the question of economic justice. If everyone had decent houses, decent opportunities, good paid jobs, I think a lot of the tensions that we see today wouldn't disappear completely, but they would fizzle gradually. You know what I mean? So I think oppression, as I said, comes in many forms.
So what? We had like a brief conversation the other day. We should maybe mention that you were out sweating, jogging, and doing some exercise, man.
My ass off.
We knew that we were going to be coming and doing this podcast, man. We almost get into like a kind of big conversation, and you made like a sort of passing comment about Jordan Peterson, and I went away from it and couldn't figure out whether or not you not that you support Jordan Peterson's a sort of weird term. I suppose that follow Jordan Peterson might be a better way to describe it.
I have a lot to listen to when he does his like psychoanalytic stuff, because he's really good at getting in your mind and knowing what's happening from that standpoint, what's going on in people's brains. As far as his politics goes, I'm not really a massive fan. I think the point I was making the other day was that all these fads and theories go in and out of date. So there was people last year that were like, oh, this identity politics, it's a bunch of bullshit, like I don't believe in it. And then today, they're at the Black Lives Matter protest. Like,
well, funnily enough, man, like the reason that's sort of what I was trying to describe at the start of this conversation was about being on the fence. It's not that I'm on the fence about racism, you know what I mean? Like, should like
no
God, would you just be racist? You know what I mean? Like that's not what I mean. Like, I'm sort of apprehensive to sort of publicly say anything just now, because I'm sort of trying to sit back and see what happens just now, if that makes sense, because of what you're saying about identity politics just sort of seeming like it's a bit of a trend. Because I sort of, through watching people like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and stuff like that, like I don't completely, like yourself, I don't completely agree with these people on absolutely everything that they say, but I do think that the majority that they had to say on identity politics was sort of bang on, and there's aspects of what I'm seeing just now that are sort of akin to that, but at the same time sort of emotionally feeling like this is something that's been a long time coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I do get that, and it's good that you are reviewing your beliefs, Chris. You know what I mean? But everyone has, like, I mean, until 2 weeks ago, I wasn't immersing myself in racism and its links with capitalism and historical slavery. I wasn't reading about this stuff 3 weeks ago, but now that this has happened, I've become much more aware and conscious. And to a certain extent, I guess I was sitting on the fence while I gathered my thoughts about the issue. But once I seen that video of George Floyd, kind of everything changed, you know what I mean? Like it changed even years ago when I seen Eric Gardner. For years, I've been on the side of Black Lives Matter, and I think people like Peterson and Shapiro don't appreciate that Black Lives Matter is a reaction against something. It doesn't appear out of thin air. It doesn't, it doesn't come out of, racism.
That's a really good way to describe it, man. That is a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And that might not be something that's like particularly a unique thing to say, man. But like I think that is perfect. That it's, and the fact that it's a reaction is sort of where I feel sort of conflicted. Do you know what I mean? By feeling sort of like, it's weird, man. Like the only thing that I can sort of pair it to is like atheism, right? Like I talk quite often on the podcast about how I've sort of had an atheistic belief system that's ran through my beliefs for the past like 10 years. And it was through following people like Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and all of those people. And then Jordan Peterson came along, and he didn't take away my sort of for the fucking lack of a better word, my faith in science. But it definitely made me sort of like rethink the utility of religion. And it is when I've went back and rewatched some of the sort of like particularly Richard Dawkins debates, I sort of have managed to come around to this way of seeing that there's a lot of fallacy and the setup of those debates. Do you know what I mean? Between someone who takes a stance of, I'm an atheist and this person believes in this religion, and then they have to have a debate over it. It just seems like a sort of fucked premise to begin with. I think that these sort of long form discussions, that are the sort of best way to go about things, because you'll probably find if Richard Dawkins was to sit down and have a conversation with like an archbishop, like they would have a lot of common ground and actually be able to meet in the middle somewhere.
Definitely.
And that's sort of like the only thing I can sort of attribute this feeling to is like feeling conflicted, because I've got the whole identity politics. I thought I had that down. You know what I mean? And but like the protests and the riots and all that seem to me to be a separate thing from the actual video of George Floyd dying. Do you know what I mean? Of him being murdered. Like, does that make sense? Like, like you're saying, that's a reaction to something that was actually really prolific. And I, like, the first thing that I sent to you was a sort of message, and that was my reaction to seeing it, because it's a fucking it's not something that people see fucking every day.
Definitely.
And I think in the message that I'd sent to you, like, was about, and it wasn't like a loaded question, man. Like, I was genuinely just interested in what you think, like, people, when they watch a video like that, other than the colour of the people's skin, what is it that you think makes it like a racist event?
All the hundreds of thousands of historical incidents which have been of the same nature. I mean, it's now. I mean, it's unescapable. As we said before, everyone faces injustice, but this particular form of racial discrimination has been terrible in America. It's been endemic to the country ever since, as I said, it came out of slavery. So all those old habits, all those old views, all those old ways of thinking, they're still prevalent today. They're still prevalent today. And these police killings are a symptom of that. You know what I mean? So I guess under a certain perspective, I'm not debating whether there is systemic racism. Like, for me, the debate is moved on now. It's more about what do we do about it now, and what strategies do we deploy, and what theories do we have to actually guide our action. Because the worst thing that could happen to this protest movement is that it just fizzles out without direction. Because let's face it, who's going to riot every single day for the next 5 weeks? People will get tired. They don't want to do it anymore. The movement needs direction. You know what I mean? And we're not, as you said, maybe this is something we can agree on. I can see why identity politics arises, because people do feel this oppression. I just think I don't think it's a very good strategy for a protest movement, because you need everyone playing their part. As I said, multiracial, multi-generational, whites and blacks together fighting a common enemy. That's what I envision. But yeah,
I think the things that scare me about it are like, I say scare, like, fucking, I'm sitting in my 3-bedroom house, fucking, my life's all right most days, man. I think like when I watch TV, I get scared because I all of a sudden become involved in the whole fucking thing. Like, I can't think of a better word to use just now than scared. But Yeah, it's the only word I can think of. But
Aye.
like sort of on reflection of the height of like the Me Too movement, to me there was like a lot of unjustifiable takedowns. You know what I mean? That weren't. There was obviously something that had to happen, like you were talking about with these trends. Like there's clearly something that goes on in society at a lower level that
Yes.
people don't really talk about. You know what I mean? Like the undertone that isn't like that can't be measured by statistics, because these things fucking become heightened in like popular culture and all that stuff. And I suppose Me Too is sort of like the fucking personification of that happening. But I thought there was some like unjustifiable takedowns of maybe people in, you know, like celebrities, people in positions that, you know, people that lost their jobs or lost a position in the careers that they had, and it's sort of nothing's came to fruition other than the fact that someone made a claim against them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like worrying that if you give someone that kind of power, they can just say something and you can lose everything.
Aye.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it worries me that just now someone can just attribute the fact that you never put a blacked out picture as your profile picture as and attach you to racism, and that you're cancelled now. Do you know what I mean? You're done. Like
Again,
those sort of things like just make me, I don't know, like scared isn't a useful word, because I'm not. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
just, I
Well,
don't know.
Chris, actually have a question for you. You said you were sort of sitting on the fence, and I was like, while you were sort of gathering your thoughts, because on the one hand, you were attracted to kind of Peterson's ideas of identity politics, but
Hmm.
on the other hand, you're seeing now that actually maybe these groups do have a point, that systemic racism exists and that it needs to be completely stamped out. What would it take for you to come off the fence? Because realistically, murder, because that's what it is, let's call it out for what it is, murder of young, predominantly young black men, all across the world, not just in the States, is enough for me to get off my couch.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So what will need
Yeah,
to
no,
happen?
I'm not even saying that I'm on the fence that um you know that happens. Like that's not what I'm
Yeah,
I'm sort of saying. I'm talking about the actual wave of the movement. I'm on reflection, looking at things like Me Too, I'm sort of apprehensive to be sort of involved in those sort of wide scale riots and takedowns of people just for because I want to be, what's the word, man? Like virtue, fucking. You know, yeah, I
oh,
want to. Do you know what I mean? Like that,
yeah,
I want
yeah,
to be the guy that says the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sort of, I'm happy for all of this to be collated into an evidential package. You know what I mean? And handed to me and go, well, this is what happened. This was the outcome, and this is how we deal with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like I sort of know in myself that I'm not going to be the guy that's at the front line chanting something, because that would sort of that would make me assumptuous that I know what's best. Do you know what I mean? That would be me assuming that I actually know what the best fucking thing is right now. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
I think, listen, man, I think it's really good and humble that you're actually admitting this. You know what I mean? That you're regathering your thoughts. That it's good to have a proper perspective on the issue, man. So I don't think anyone would have any issue with that. And again, coming back to privilege, I think some white people maybe do feel a bit put off by going to these rallies. And again, that comes from all this privilege theory, as you said, like white guilt, that we need to renounce and confess and stuff like that. I don't personally agree with any of that. I think everyone needs to be welcomed into the movement, that it's not just a black struggle, it's everyone's
Yeah.
struggle. You know what I mean? Because we're all, as I said, living under the same oppressive structures. So I think it's really good. But what would you say about that riots, that protests, even if they turn violent, as Martin Luther King said, is the language of the unheard? What questions are America as a country not answering in order for these kind of events to be happening. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way you need to be looking at it. What is it that these people are responding to that is enraging them so much? You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was saying there, man. Is like the reason that, I mean, I don't know the exact reason, but something like Me Too comes to fruition because there's something happening in the underbelly of society that people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis that sort of isn't fucking prevalent in TV, and it's not being reported on the news and all of that stuff. Like I do accept that. Like there's shit that goes on in our town that, you know, people don't experience at a fucking higher level that may someday come to light. So and that's why I think like Me Too happened. I just think that the reaction was disproportionate to what was needed. Do you know what I mean? It was sort of like fighting sexism with sexism, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I do.
And there's aspects of that right now. Like, I don't think that fighting racism with racism is going to be the thing that works. And
100% with you on that.
And I think there's going to be a lot of people that feel the way that I do, that just are sort of scared to be attributed to any of it, man, because like people are so quick to cancel somebody or like say that someone, you said this thing, so that means that you meant this.
You better don't try and,
and don't talk yourself out of it, man. Like that. I know that you meant that fucking thing, and I suppose like these conversations are me fucking posting something on Facebook isn't going to be the thing that gets my point across. Like having an open conversation like this is totally the best form because people get the idea of what it's about, what you're trying to say, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. They're not coming at it with their own attitudes and biases. We're just trying to have a conversation.
I'm just noticing, man, this light, like on the episodes of the podcast that I've done recently, like, because it's like lighter outside, it starts getting like darker and fucking the lighting in here gets really weird. So I've tried to like set like a lamp in front of me the whole time, and now I'm just like, I look like I've got fucking jaundice or something, man. I may try and turn on the big light 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
That helped any? A little bit.
Perfect, man.
There's a little bit of red, man. Yeah. Cool. So we've covered racism, right?
Aye, man. We've covered that.
We've solved racism, man.
We had a very good chat, I think.
Yeah, me too, man. Pardon the pun. So let's talk about music, man. Because like,
talk about music, baby.
50 minutes have went by and we've not even discussed how we even fucking know each other.
I know, man. It goes back. You know what? It extends far back than I like to admit, because I remember seeing a Fluorescent Hearts gig, your old band, and it was honestly, now that I think of it, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah,
it would have been, man.
Which kind of scares me, but I forget the venue. It was really big. It was packed. I don't know if it was maybe O2 Academy. It was like massive inside. I can't remember now, but I went with Luke Boyce as well, and we both loved the show, man. We fucking loved your band.
Oh, it would have been probably ABC at the time.
Probably ABC. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Oh, that's cool, man. You know, I didn't even know that you were like even into that kind of music. Like, I don't even know if I'm into that kind of music anymore, man. Yeah. Just because your style of writing changes as you move forward, man. But that's cool. My sort of first, the earliest memory I have of meeting you was just in passing in the rehearsal room. So we used to rehearse at AM rehearsal studios up in fucking Westfield. And you were in, was it the Preventers? Is that right?
That's right. My old rockabilly. Yeah. When I thought I was actually Elvis Presley.
Well, fucking, you were rocking it, man. Yeah, man. But yeah, that's when I remember you from, and you were like so distinct looking, because you had like the fucking quiffs, and you were always dressed really nice and shit, and we were like kicking about with our fucking punk rock stuff, man.
Oh man, listen, man. Honestly, when you brought that up there, I was just seeing the old red Harrington that I used to wear. I used to pop the collar. But popping the collar was like a thing that Ned's done.
Yeah.
At the time, so I was popping the collar on, and people were like, "What the hell, man? Are you down with the young teams now?" Like, but yeah, honestly, it was a great time in that band because we were just jamming to jam. There was no. See now, for instance, I'll go away 2-3 months and work on 3 tunes. whereas back then, like, you were just plugging in and playing. So I do miss that element. I just kind of feeling like it was a jam. But I think as you do get older, you do need to take a bit more time with your songwriting. It's
so harder to get everyone in the same fucking room as well, man. Like in the time that I've got into the room with like another like a drummer or a bass player, and like I've got the bones of a band sitting there. Like I definitely have a lot more fun in that environment than I do now sitting down trying to produce a fucking record, man. Because there's so much more.
Sorry, Chris, I'm just going to charge my laptop now because it's just running out of low battery. I'll be 2 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, no worries, man.
There we are. As you were, Chris.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh, just talking about like being in the rehearsal room with band members, man. There's something that just happens. It doesn't happen when you're sitting by yourself cause it's sort of self-indulgent. You're chasing the idea of a song. I've noticed, by the way, I always say when I listen to these back, when I say the word idea, I put an R on the end of it. Don't know if you've ever noticed that, man. Like not in me, but in yourself. Like idea.
Idea. Yeah, I've got a really good idea.
Yeah, this idea is fucking great, man.
An idea caught in the headlights.
But like the guy that plays bass for my solo project, a guy called Austin Brown, and no matter how much I sit, even if I was to sit with a fucking bass and track bass over the top of a track, like I'm never going to be able to emulate what he brings to the fucking songs. And I get so frustrated that I can like produce an EP and put it out, and then I'll take it into the rehearsal studio for us to do a performance, and like it just sounds 10 times better, man. I'm like, I wish I just fucking wrote the songs with you.
Yeah. I feel you, man. Like again, with what you just said there about when it sounds amazing when he's collaborating on the record. I have now took the time personally, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. I've got nothing better to do anyway, that I just sit down with instruments that I didn't know before, and just learn them. Because what I found is that if you really want to get something done, you have to do it yourself. Sadly, while I'm nostalgic, I've got to be honest in this, while I'm nostalgic about being in the practice room and energy bouncing off each other and everyone's getting a vibe, you still need that. You still definitely need that. But for me, songwriting now is a solitary process. A very, very solitary process, because the songs I was singing before, it was just like, I was still in high school, so I was like, oh, I'm sick of school already and it's only 10 past 10. Yeah, it was just about like just a wee kid being sick of school. It can't be like that anymore. You have experiences as you grow up, more intense experiences, more intense relationships. So I found that my songwriting is sort of adjusted to that, and now I'm like, no, I can't write this in the practice room. This can't be done with a group. This is personal to me, and I know exactly what it needs to sound like. So I've got to be honest, for me, democracy has never worked in bands. I think you always need a guy. You always need a guy that's bringing the ideas, that's pushing things forward, and really just taking the initiative and making sure the project is actually successful. You know what I mean? Because once you start operating a democracy, hopefully this is not going to be a judge of my political views. I'm a complicated communist.
I mean, maybe that does translate in some way. I don't know if you actually heard Jordan Peterson talking about like sort of trying to bring sort of creatives and sort of like mathematical minds together, because like creatives sort of struggle to monetize their creativity, the art in which they're creating, whereas like people who are sort of more business minded are great at that, and like a society flourishes when you sort of meld those two things together. And maybe like a political stance that takes all of that into consideration maybe work quite well. Yeah, like you're saying, like the songwriting thing always came from sort of me, like in the bands that I was in. Like I was always like sitting in my fucking bedroom at my mum's, like writing all the songs, and then I would take them into the room with the rest of the guys in Fluorescent Hearts, and we would turn them into a Fluorescent Hearts song. But I think what you're saying is important, to spend time on the actual the songwriting aspect of it, and make sure that it's great at its core before you take it anywhere. But you I think the last time we were talking, you were saying that you're trying to create like a kind of poppy sort of funk production to your songs.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm really fucking interested in hearing, man. Like the last. Sorry. When you
go. Sorry, I've been sitting on about an album's worth of music for the last 3 or 4 months, and all of them do have that old school kind of 70s funky disco thing going on. But I've also got songs there that are like, you know, they sound like they could be like a gospel song for like the 40s. That it could be like some mad barbershop quartet. So I don't want to pigeonhole myself and say that I'm just going to be bringing out a lot of funk, even though that will be a major part of it. But it's weird, Chris. Like, you know me, like I wasn't always into this kind of music. You know what I mean? It was only maybe in the last 4 years where I've started to go to more DJ sets than I would live gigs. And what I wanted to do was to combine the energy of the room that you get. See, in a nightclub, there's a certain energy between people that you don't get at live gigs, in my experience. And I said to myself, wow, imagine if you had a live band doing what this DJ is doing with all the horns, the horn section, all the keyboards. If you had a live band that could replicate a club atmosphere in this exact moment, I think that would be absolutely class. You know what I mean? Because
definitely, man.
My genre of music it's mainly done by DJs, disco, funk, house. I want to be able to get a live band together that can do basically the same thing, except it's being played live in front of you.
That'd be great, man.
You know what I mean?
It's funny because you get like people who are really snobby about pop music. Like you fucking get them 10 wickets deep in a nightclub, man, and they'll be like fucking dancing with the best shit I've ever heard, man. Like I'm like that, man. Like well, maybe not so much now, but before, when I was into more sort of like punk rock, like I wouldn't really bother too much with pop music. And then you'd be out at a nightclub, man, and it's just like it's a different. I don't want to be listening to fucking Slayer in a nightclub. Do you know what I mean? Or fucking I don't. Maybe not. Pop punk's not a good example, because if Sum 41 comes on in any club, man, you're going to lose your shit. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. In the cat house.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically. Yeah, that's cool, man, and I'm actually really excited to fucking hear that. I guess like what when I think about you as an artist, like even though you're saying that I might not have attributed like the styles that you're listening to now, I always expect that whatever it is that you're going to do is going to surprise me. Like I remember when we recorded our album with Stuart McLeod. I think it might not have even been the album. I think we'd done the album. We were recording a couple of singles. You just recorded as Sonny in the Lost Soul Train. And
I remember that.
He didn't actually say who it was. He was like, "But you need to hear this fucking record. I've just recorded this track with this band, and I'm going to send it to these people, like just folk that he knew within the industry." And it was Sex that he put on, and I remember being like, "That whatever that fucking thing is the shit, man."
Thank you, man.
And I like Yeah, that song in particular, I think captured. But you wrote it with Luke Boyce, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sex was one of those ones that was actually done by all the band.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Funnily enough, like we just got together, man, and everyone kind of had their parts to bring to the table, and it
Hmm.
was one of those songs that was just performed perfectly and
Yeah.
recorded perfectly. So there are very rare occasions when that happens.
Yeah. And it is such a fucking great song, man. And ever since I heard that, and that combined with like when I'm saying I met you and you guys are all fucking kitted out with rockabilly stuff, like I know that whatever you're going to do is going to be surprising, man. Is going to like be worth listening to, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that because you always think, who cares about my music? Like, who's waiting on my single or my record? I mean, so
Yeah.
it's nice to hear that. But what I would say is that the difference this time round is that the songs are all extremely personal, and I basically put my entire life that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years onto the tracks. So I feel
That's cool, man.
more invested in these songs more than I ever have, and I just hope that we can get out of this pandemic so I can stick on a bloody launch gig.
Totally, man. I know. That is the biggest frustration right now. I'm sort of like in a privileged position, I suppose, like with um putting out music because I don't have a sort of um want to be doing many gigs like playing more music. I've kind of came to this sort of got to this place like where I feel like I'll play a gig if if someone really wants me to fucking play a gig, then I'll do it. But also if it's a fucking great gig, like I'll just want to go along and play it. At I think the last time that I played as a full band with CRASHTON was the Wet 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 gig that I done like last year.
I've seen that.
Um, and yeah, so like unless I'm like really fucking convinced that the gig's going to be a good gig, like, and not just because it was fucking wet, 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 but it just was a good gig. It was fun,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Um,
But also, wet, wet, wet was very important.
yeah, that's wait, wait, wait. But like, I even in that though, like, um, the guy that sort of like helps me manage my solo stuff is Graham Clark's manager, like
All right,
from
okay.
Wet Wet Wet. So like, I've actually like fucking had a good friendship through doing all of this sort of stuff with Graham. That like obviously playing with Wet 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 is a good fucking thing to have like
Of
in
course.
your back catalogue. Do you know what I mean? But just getting the chance to be around Graham and be around Mark and all that, like just a cool environment. Um, but yeah, fuck, like I can't wait till it all goes back so that we can just fucking start playing again.
I know.
Um, yeah,
Because
man.
we are also full timers, aren't we, Chris? Like in
Yeah,
terms of how much percentage of a wage do you make from music? 100%.
exactly, man. Yeah.
So this is
I
our
was going to
livelihood.
speak about that stuff as well, man. Because like again, you just fucking surprise me, man. Like when I see like guys that are out making money from acoustic gigs, I think, oh well, they're going to be doing like some stereophonic stuff, and like, and then I see you fucking like singing authentic Italian songs in like authentic Italian restaurants. And I'm like, what the fuck is
Listen,
going on
Chris,
here? And I find out that you're authentically Italian. I'm like, what the fuck is
yeah.
going on,
Right,
man?
Chris, supply and demand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Supply and demand.
it's
But
crazy, man.
listen, Chris, I mean, I'm blessed. I mean, most people would probably look at me and be like, this guy hasn't had a real job in his life. I look at it that I get to live every day without feeling like I have to go to work.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's a blessing. It's a blessing to play music, and
Hmm.
anytime I don't know, I buy something or I get a new instrument or I don't know, even buy a nice shirt for myself or whatever. Like it comes from my music. It came from like something that's meaningful to me, and to me, that's honestly part of living a fulfilled life. Um, Music to me isn't something I do as like an add-on, just like yourself, mate. For me, it's like almost like borderline therapy. because, as I said, when I write the songs, basically what I do is if I've had something that's happened to me or some intense event that's happened in the past, I tend to write about that after I've reflected on it and after the whole thing's happened. So I can't write a song about a situation that's happening now. I need to have a little bit of time to like think back. And what I find is when I write about it, I kind of relieve myself of that situation. I say that's that chapter closed on that book. That's that. You know what I mean? And out of my own tragedy, or even in just an intense moment, doesn't need to be a tragedy. New songs come to life, and I think that's ultimately what making art is all about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, man. I think that's something that I've learned as I've gotten older, and through having my wee boy. Like, you see the utility in music, like when you're singing nursery rhymes and stuff, and like Katie, like my partner, she's like a good singer and stuff as well, and so music is quite like fucking a big thing in our household. But our stepson Lewis, like my stepson Lewis, sorry, he like he's not really big into music, although he played drums for a while, and he was really fucking good at it. But he knows that like it's just a fucking big part of our lives, man, and it's how we fucking speak to each other. It's weird because like this sort of like correlates with what we were talking about sort of the start of the podcast, man. Like when I was like about 11 or 12, like I was involved in really fucking. It's like the groups of people that went on to cause a lot of damage in like the community, and sort of ended up in prison and stuff like that. Like I've hung about with all of those people, and if it wasn't for like my brother-in-law giving me music, man, like I would have definitely been with those people. Like my best friend, who like I stayed in touch with since we were 8 years old, like died last year, like through alcoholism, and it was through his like sort of. I mean, not like in the end that it was like this, but I feel like his sort of dedication to those groups of people that were sort of pulling you towards the darkness, man. I feel like kept him in that place, so that he felt like he couldn't get out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's weird. Like music is totally is a way out, man. It's a fucking way out of whatever fucking situation you're in, man. And you nailed it when you said it's therapy, because like I just wouldn't be where I am today without fucking having that guitar, man, without having the ability to sit down and write, and I might not be writing a song particularly about the thing like you're saying, like you'll maybe write about like a you know, like the current situation, even though you're saying you'll write it later on. Like I might not be writing about what I'm going through ever or at all, but like it helps, man. It like just gets me through whatever it is that I'm going through.
Absolutely. And I don't know, a psychologist would be better placed to answer this question, but what is it about music that is actually therapeutic? Because a lot of people would say that you shouldn't try and ruminate and relive like negative or intense experiences. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't open your subconscious to that, but that's exactly what music does, is that it takes you back to a place and a time. So it's kind of weird how it's therapeutic, but it's also making you face your problem directly in its eyes. You know what I mean?
I think like comedy, like comedians basically. I don't know if you're like this, man, but when bad stuff happens, like I tend to laugh before I'll cry, because it's just such a fucking surreal thing. And if you can see the sort of funny side in something, then you have these tools that can help you cope with the fucking terrible shit that comes along in your life. And I think music's sort of like that as well. And it'd be interesting if I can speak to a psychologist and understand what that is. But I know that there is such a thing as music therapy, but I don't know what that entails. Maybe that's a fucking idea, getting someone on. We can fucking we'll both grill them.
Yeah, definitely.
If I disagree with them, we'll go, "You're racist, man. You're fucking racist."
You want to talk to privilege.
Yeah, check your privilege, man. Stop fucking shaking your maracas at me.
But aye, Chris, I mean, hopefully just that we can get gigging again soon, you know what I mean? Because let's face it, you know, I was talking about economic realities earlier on and the economic conditions people face. I mean, I've lost 100% of my income, you know what I mean? But in this case, there is genuinely not a lot I can do about it. You know what I mean? We've been discussing this whole time about fighting oppression, fight every form of injustice. But this time around, in terms of the pandemic and its effect on livelihoods, there's not really much that the individual can do in this case. I mean, how are we supposed to just try and find private garden parties to go and play at? You know what I mean? There's no way we're going to be able to do it. But,
a mobile gazebo.
We gazebo, mate. That's what we need.
Yeah.
But I just hope it gets back to normal, mate, so that I can actually hear what you're working on, and I can hear what your next steps are going to be. I don't know if you're in the middle of an album or anything now. I don't know what specifically you're working on.
Ed, I've sort of like I set myself a sort of like fucking I don't even know what, like a blueprint. So when I done that wet gig last year, there was a mad rush, like a 2-week rush to get like an EP recorded and like pressed so that I had merch to fucking sell.
Yeah.
And it was just 4 tracks, but so I decided like for my second EP I was just going to do the same thing, and I'm like I've recorded 3, so I've got 1 more to do, and I keep swithering between whether I revisit an old song that I was working on or this other new one that's fucking kicking about my head just now, and I feel like the new one is like the single. Do you know what I mean? So it's really difficult because it's a sort of you know what it's like, man. When you get the one that you know is like the big one, you want to be delicate with it, man. You want to make sure that it's sort of the best that it can be. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I am with music, man. But I'm like, in saying that, like I was talking to Gary Gilmore, who's like the drummer from my solo stuff. He was the drummer for Fluorescent Hearts, and we were talking about how like I've always just been recording stuff, man. Like I'll go on GarageBand on my phone, I'll just track an idea and it'll just be there. Idea, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Good idea.
I didn't catch it until you said it.
It's fucking horrible, man. Yeah, so like, my phone's full of fucking voice notes. Like, probably record like 5 or 6 voice notes of different melodies and stuff like every single day, man. So I'm always like, there's always something there, but I guess maybe that's just like the therapy coming out. Like, I wonder if like if I'm having a particularly stressful day, that there's maybe more voice notes in my phone.
Probably it is the case. You know what I mean? But mate, it's good to hear you're staying creative. You know, I mean, a lot of my friends have they've been saying, "Sonny, I feel so demotivated. Like, I've not been able to even sit at my computer and even get the software booted up." You know what I mean? It's a hard time. It's a hard time to be motivated. You know what I mean? With everything that's really going on in the world, I think it's kind of hard to stay focused now when you have a constant news feed of just bad shit everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's good
and
to
the sort of uncertainty of like where society's going, man. Like for a good like month, I went from thinking that people who were prepping for the end of the world were fucking nuts to thinking like I need to get in with these people because they're the ones that are going to fucking keep communities going, and like so like it's just been fucking it's just been a crazy time, man. I remember like at the start of all of this genuinely thinking like this is the collapse, man. It's done.
This is what I'm saying, Chris. Like you know how in history when we're kids we look back at like when we studied history we look back at pivotal moments like the Great Depression, Civil Rights Movement in the 60s, World War II and the Nazis. I think this period in time is going to be seen as unprecedented and extraordinary. Like with COVID-19, you have 40,000 dead in the UK, 100,000 in America. You have a full economic collapse, 1.3 million people unemployed in the UK. just in the first 3 months of this year. And then all this awareness and consciousness about police brutality. It's just that everything's coming at once. And it really does depend on us to, I think, play our part, A, in understanding, and then B, getting active. Because I don't think it's enough just to understand. And if you do understand, you should take action based on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
maybe like we were talking earlier, man. Maybe this just making a video like this will be a sort of contribution in some way, man. Like for people that don't know how to feel about it, or don't know what to feel, or they haven't even like looked at it enough to think. That's definitely why I wanted to talk to you anyway, man. Like it's all fair and well, like me just saying shit, but for someone who's actually got an education in this stuff, man, it's important for you to present ideas that actually are true. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man. As I said, I don't think I'm any better qualified. I think you'd probably be better actually getting like a representative of Black Lives Matter, like a guy that's organised the protest today, for instance. Right. That might be a shout, because those guys are going to be full of ideas. Those guys are at the front line. So maybe it would be an option to get one of those guys in. I could probably link you up if you'd be interested.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But aye, Chris, man, I'm going to need to stick on a munch because I've actually forgotten that I've not eaten all day from the protest. I think I had maybe a can of Tennent's at 1 and then a bottle of water. That's how crazy I get these days, Chris.
That's basically lunch. A can of Tennent's. I'm sure that counts as a meal. Cool. Like time-wise, it's perfect anyway. So, but thanks very much for doing this, man.
That's class, Chris. It's been great talking to you.
I always say, like, to people, like, I need to get you back on, but I would love to just have you back on just for a chat and stuff. And it doesn't need to be about fucking racism.
Maybe next time we'll have the new tunes ready and we can actually talk about all the music we've released after all the bullshit's over.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, man.
Fingers crossed.
Awesome, man. It's been really good talking to you.
Oh, man. Take it easy.